and find and make sure that those students that are falling between the cracks get the funding where it's needed, and the funding follows those students. I believe for far too long that funding and focus has been on administrators and not on our teachers and our staff that touch the students first. In office, my first goal would be to refocus the county office to make sure it's student-centered. And a ripple effect from the student would be making sure that the resources would go into the teachers and the staff to assist those students. My second goal would be to ensure that we are a professional development mecca, so that no matter where you go in the district, you say, where do we get this information? They can always call Alameda County and we would have that information. The third goal would to ensure that I'd be an advocate for the county at the government level, in the state, and in the federal office. Thank you.
Thank you. This is, I don't want to blast anybody out of a loud place. So our second question is kind of a long one, but an important one. So if you have any questions, you can ask me now. The ongoing reorganization of Alameda County Office of Education has created more management positions, which has resulted in approximately 23.74% of management to staff. Considering that Hayward Unified has approximately 5.4%, Fremont has 7.4%, and Albany has 11%. What do you think is an acceptable ratio proportion between management and staff, and why?
I think the answer everyone's looking for is it seems really top-heavy. But I will say that one of the first things that I would do is, let me explain, I have for the last several years, even though I live here in San Lorenzo, is I've worked in San Jose Unified, and I have attended lots of meetings at Santa Clara County Office of Ed. And I have to tell you that I have been seriously impressed by what I've been provided in Santa Clara County. So one of the things that I'd like to look at is look at surrounding county offices of ed and see what their ratios are. Because I know that one works beautifully. And I think that if that's a model, now if it turns out they're at 23%, then I've got to question the whole business. But my feeling is, if you see something that works really well, and if the bargaining units contact Santa Clara County and they feel like this works for us, then let's talk about it. Because I think that's what we do, is we collect data, we collect information, and then we make it work so that if we feel like this is top heavy and based on comparisons to other county offices, it is, then I think we need to do something about that and get it back into a reasonable but very supportive line in terms of providing the customer service that we need to do for all of the counties and all the schools in Alameda County.
Thank you. So I think it is important to look at what the right size is. It is important to look at those ratios and see if they're appropriate for the job we're doing. I do think that it's important to look at other county offices. What we do at the county office is different from what happens at districts. So we do have a lot more roles, coordinator roles in which people are leading out in the districts. So I think that's definitely something that we should look at and assess, and I think comparing to other county offices as opposed to districts is an important step. I think that making sure that our process is inclusive is another important step, so that there are multiple voices at the table from all our bargaining units and from other staff, our ACA, which is our coordinators, and our management, to say, what do we need to get the job done? To make sure that we're basing that on data, and actually not just on a percentage, but basing it on what it takes to do the job well and what our staff feels like it's going to take to do that job well. So data, looking at that right size, and inclusive process, I feel, are critical to answering this question well.
I definitely agree that a reorganization is necessary, especially here in the county office. I also agree that looking at other districts, looking at other county offices is very important. One thing, though, to also look at, in addition to looking at how many administrators there are, is looking at if those administrators have the knowledge to actually administrate those positions. I've done a little research, and I've seen that some of the positions in the county office, the people who are working on the ground, feet on the ground, day to day, have a lot more knowledge about the students, the programs, than the managers that come in to manage them. I believe that the managers should at least have a degree in the type of program and have some years of experience in that program. So I think that an audit, first of all, of how many administrators there are, but also if they have the proper experience to be in that position is key. We do not need to slap the people that do the work in the face by putting an administrator there that has no knowledge of the subject. I think that's cruel. I think that builds a defensive, bad feeling, bad culture, and the culture needs to change.
I guess we're standing up. Now I can see the clock. I guess the answer to the question is I don't have a number for you. And I don't have a number for you because what's really key is what services are being delivered. And in order to do that, an assessment needs to happen. County offices, as already been talked before, are different than districts. They are service-oriented. They're to provide services for the schools, the students, the teachers, the administrators throughout the county. And I think what's so important is understanding what are these people doing? Are they effective in their position? And I'm not saying there's going to be a reorg or a transition. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is it's so important to be transparent. And the key thing is that we have a lot of work ahead of us, especially with Common Core and LCAP. And it's very important that we do this together. I can't do this alone. I need your help. I need district's help. I need superintendent's help. And with my background in all levels, elementary through high school, I currently serve on a school board, I understand the inner workings of a school district. So it's very important then you need to explain to your employee groups what you're doing and why you're doing it. And it all needs to tie back into the strategic plan. And the strategic plan is something we do together. And that, as I mentioned early on, that goes back to the stakeholder groups. Who are the people that are going to help me to do this? I can't do this alone. So in order to convince you, I need to provide leadership, guidance, funding, and support in order to deliver those services. So I can't commit a percentage to you, but what really matters is what are the services that we're delivering? Are they effective? Are they of value and need to the districts around us? And I think that's absolutely key. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Sonia Osborne, and I'm a teacher at Butler Academic Center at the Juvenile Justice Center, more commonly known as Juvenile Hall. My first question for you is, how would you work with districts and specifically student programs and services to implement Common Core state standards and provide meaningful professional development?
Well, one of the things I can tell you is how we are working with districts and our plans for expanding that work going forward. There are only 3 districts now that we aren't touching with Common Core professional development, also professional development around Smarter Balanced. Also, we are reaching out to boards and parents in those districts as well. So we're working with them to make sure that there's a good understanding of Common Core. One of the things we're doing with our student programs and services is making sure that we're focusing on professional development. We're working on putting together a structure where teachers have input on what the professional development is going to be. So we've looked at several paths to doing that. We've formed a committee to do that at this